this morning. I don't know if anybody can see this. This is your captain freaking. I mean, this is one of these unbelievable stories, and also somewhat heroic in that the other pilot and the co-pilot and the people on board were able to manage what was ultimately a horrible situation.
As somebody who flies a lot,
I'm a little bit of a scared flyer, and
it
makes me...
This isn't helping.
It's not helping. It's not helping. But we have other news to get to this morning. The deficit showdown continues in Congress this week over how best to balance the federal budget. Senator Tom Coburn joins us now from Washington, and it is great to see you, Senator.
Good morning.
I wanted to start with a quote from your new book, The Debt Bomb. And you say, quote, "We will be Greece in 2 years." And I wanted to understand why you believe that, and given interest rates and where they are today, it's not necessarily clear that that would indicate we're headed in that direction so quickly.
Well, I think things continue right along as they are until they don't, Andrew. And our interest rates are based on the confidence that we, in fact, in Washington, will address the significant debt and deficit problems that we have. Do you see any evidence of that? Do you see anybody on the campaign trail, or the president for that matter, talking about the serious nature of what is in front of us? If you take total debt in this country, including private debt, public debt, state debt, and federal debt, we're at a level greater than what Greece is as a comparison to the GDP. So right now, everybody's calmed down because they think the ECB in Europe has handled the Greece situation. How many really think it's handled versus kicked down the road? How many think Portugal and perhaps Spain and Italy may not have as significant a problem, especially going into a recession in Europe and what does not look to be like a very healthy economy here in our country? So failing to address that by both raising revenues and cutting spending is ignoring we're acting just like the politicians in Greece.
Right.
We're not addressing the issue.
Senator, how quickly do we have to do it? And for example, what do you think of Paul Ryan's plan, which does take some time, but does bend the curve?
Well, I think creating confidence that we're going to do the right thing is as important as doing the right thing. So in that respect, Paul addresses it and has worked hard. He spent his whole life trying to get this under control in Congress. I would do it more quickly, but I can't criticize the fact that if you accomplish what he has put out, then we will send the signals which will restore the confidence. The other thing it'll do is actually will increase our GDP because you'll have some confidence in the long run and some certainty on the capital that's sitting on the sideline that might actually be invested and start creating wealth and employment in this country.
Senator, it's Kelly here. Given that health care is such a big part of the deficit and of our long-term debt problem, how urgently do we need health reform?
Well, we need health reform. And the shame with the Affordable Care Act is it didn't fix the problem. The problem is health care in America costs too much, and we have all these economic signals that don't check its rise in cost. And, everybody in America thinks somebody else is paying for their health care. Consequently, no market forces are being applied to it. So it is a large component, but we're very inefficient with it.
Well, what is the plan, Senator, if the Affordable Care Act was not the right way of doing it?
Well, I think there's lots of plans out there. Richard Burr and I put out one called the Patient's Choice Act, which actually gives everybody a baseline refundable tax credit with which to buy health care with a higher deductible, where you'll start paying attention to what you spend your money on. What we know is a lot of interesting things is if you've got a supplemental policy in Medicare, you spend 23% more money than somebody that doesn't, and you have no difference in the outcome of your health. So why would, when you stop having economic forces applied to health care, what we do is we spend a whole lot more money on it with very little in return.
Right. Senator Jack Welch is here, and he's got a question for you.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Welch.
I was going to ask you about this argument, which may be specious, about the Republicans falling into a trap. Why are the Republicans bringing up these issues before the election in terms of crashing after the deficit, what's going to be cut? The last time they did it, they had pictures of Paul Ryan pushing old ladies off a cliff. Are we falling into a trap that the Obama administration set so that they don't talk about the real reforms that have to go on, and we're going to be out there as the cutters of Medicare and Medicaid, et cetera?
You know, I think America's really ready for an adult conversation on it, Mr. Welch. They can hammer us, but the ethical and proper position is to be honest and treat the American people like grown-ups. Medicare is not going to last. It's not going to last. We're not in 3 or 4 years. We're not even going to be able to borrow enough money to fund the tremendous growth in Medicare. So why would we continue to lie to the American people and say, "Oh, you don't have to do a thing to Medicare. It's going to don't elect us. We'll make sure," when we know that that's dishonest and untruthful.
Well, we're going to have to be able to articulate it.
That doesn't mean we have to cut the benefits. What it means is we have to be smarter about how we apply Medicare across the board. And it can be done. But what you have is way too many politicians in Washington wanting to play a political game, and the consequence of that is the destruction of our country. It's not about winning the next election. It's about whether or not we preserve this republic. And it's time that the grown-ups in Washington stand up and say, this is a real problem. They can lie to you and say it's not going to be, but I'm going to stand up and say we need to fix it. How many of you want to fix it in light of the fact that if we don't fix it, what you're doing is you're actually markedly lowering the opportunities for your children and grandchildren? You want that?
Senator,
they don't want it.
Are there grown-ups on the other side of the aisle who you think will agree with you on this?
Yeah, they'll agree privately, but they won't speak publicly because of the discipline of the political teams in Washington.
Right.
And we need more people standing up and saying, hey, these are the real problems. Right. If we can't discuss what the problems are, how are we ever going to solve them?
Senator, we're going to have to leave it right there, but thank you for the adult conversation. Best of luck with the new book.
All right.
It is called The Debt Bomb, and we appreciate you being here.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
When we come back, Cuba getting a special visitor today. Our chief international correspondent, Michelle Caruso Cabrera, is there live. Michelle?